Remember how I told you that this week wasn't going to be very witchy? Every time you open your mouth. So, I got a visit. I had such a lovely visit, guys, by Jeff. And I'm all happy because it feels like, I don't know, like I went on an emotional vacation for a day. I could feel all the feels that I have inside for who we were and what we once did and how we once lived. And feels good, you know? That, what is the saying? What happiness lacks in length, it makes up for in depth. So I traveled. And so I was going to sleep, and I knew it. Like, I knew it earlier in the day. I could feel something brewing, you know? And so I went to lie down to go to sleep knowing that I wasn't going to sleep. But I didn't care because supposedly I wasn't going to have to work. But then they came up with this meeting, and now I have to work anyway. But whatever. That's not even important. So I laid down to go to sleep, and I feel myself starting to go, and I just like went with it. But you know what I did differently? Let me tell you what I did differently. Where normally I would think about myself like in the room, not even like in the forefront of my mind. I would think about like where I was for real in comparison to where I was going to land when I got out of this. Okay, so the thing is that even though that was true, even though I usually do that, I didn't this time. And this is what I did this time. When I was going over, I did the push, because you can push yourself out. Like if you can't get out, you'll like roll out of your body sometimes. If you can't get out, you can like push yourself out, and I've done that, but I've ended up like on 40, you know what I mean? Because like because I always have it in relationship to where I am in my body. But instead what I did was I made it a blank piece of paper in my mind, because I wanted to see like where would the universe take me as opposed to me take me. So when that happened, boom, I ended up in the foyer of what looked to me. Now remember, I'm not looking at the outside yet. I am in the foyer of a mansion, but not like a new, like pretty mansion, but it wasn't scary either. It just looked like an old, like maybe English mansion, British mansion, like it had that look that you see in like older movies, like 60s or 70s movies of a mansion, not of like what mansions are today. Do you know what I mean? And even in some aspects older than that, but I'll get to that because that was weird too. It was almost like a clearinghouse or something at some point. Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm in the foyer of this mansion type home. Lots of doors. It's old, really old, like really old. That's why I think England, in America, we only have to a certain date, and this looks even older, like plaster walls, and it just looks so old. So anyway, it had this like arched staircase that went up like in a half circle and then to places unknown. So I just start walking up. I figure I'm gonna find him. I know he's in there. Like in my heart, I know he's in there. So I'm gonna go find him. So I go up the first, and there was like many floors. It wasn't just that one floor, but the first floor, and I didn't notice anybody on the left or right of me at first, but when I first flipped over, it was very like ethereal. Like I was still getting like where things were, like I guess I was almost still in body a little. Because when I first hollered for Jeff, like I don't know if I told you that. So I hollered Jeff, right? I go to holler Jeff, and the minute I start hollering it, I realize I can still feel it, me hollering in my body. And that is when you pop back out. And I did not want that, so I shut up real quick. I was like, Jet, nope. So I stopped myself. So I start to walk up the steps. I just figure I'll go find him. So as I walk up the steps, there's like a bunch of doors there, and they had like glass knobs. Glass, I guess they're glass or crystal, or I don't know what they're made out of, but they look like glass doorknobs, and they're like brass, and they look loose. And then they have the big square thing, okay, on the like the square key, you know, it's like this, a doorknob, a square, a doorknob at the top, and then a place for a key at the bottom. Only the shapes of the keyholes were animals. And the one that I went to first was a monkey, a little monkey. And so it had like the tail of, you know what I mean? It was like a little monkey, like that, the cutout. So I guess the keys to it were like that. I don't know. Anyway, I go and I open this door, and sure enough, he's there. Like, of all the doors I chose, I almost was like drawn to him. It was really strange. But he's there. But he's maybe 20 years old. I'm going to stick a picture right here of like what he looked like age-wise. So he is sitting on very low chairs to the ground next to another person, a guy who also is about the same age, maybe 20, early 20s, I'm guessing. He wasn't a teenager, but he wasn't old either. He had his little mustache, so he was like that age, and full head of hair. Oh my God, he was so cute. But he's sitting next to him, and their backs are kind of facing away from me. There's a television, which almost seemed somehow out of place in this house. There's this television, and they're sitting on the floor, and it almost looked like they had like a box for like weed or something in front of them. And so I walked in and just sat down next to him on a similar chair. They were like really low to the ground, like maybe that low to the ground. So it's like they were like sitting kind of almost Indian style on them. So I sat down, and he didn't acknowledge me. The guy next to him had like shocking red hair, like carrot top hair, like that. So he sits down, and he doesn't really like acknowledge me, okay? He doesn't like look at me. So I pushed my hand on top of his hand and tapped him, and he turned around, and he kind of smirked at me like, he said, "Go upstairs. I'll meet you upstairs." So I was like, okay. And the other guy looked like dead at me. He had like freckles, and he had blue eyes, and he was also young, and he had like curly-ish, really red hair, like orange red hair. So I get up from that room, and I walk out. I just don't argue or say anything. I just get up and walk out, and there's a stairwell at each end of the hallway that I'm in, the second floor hallway. And as I'm walking down, I'm seeing, that's where I noticed that all of the keyholes are like horses and dogs and cats and stuff, little cutouts of an animal. So I opened the one with the horse. I don't know why, I just felt like it. And it was like a little girl's room, and the toys in there were really, really old. It looked like it was afternoon, because the sun was like coming in, light was shining in. And so I just looked around. There was like a big bed in the middle. It was a big room, and like a little dresser, but it was like a little kid's stuff, okay? It didn't look like an adult's bedroom at all. So but nobody was in there. So I closed that door, and then I went up the stairs, and these stairs were very narrow. They were like that, like wide enough for you to fit, but they weren't like the massive ones that were down in the foyer. So I walk up, and as I go up, like I'm like touching the wall, and I can feel there's like wallpaper, but it's dark in this little hallway. And then I come out on the second floor. There's a door in front of me. I didn't see an animal on the thing. I didn't look. I just opened it, and well, I opened it in, and walked into the hallway, and it was light still, you know, lots of light coming in. So there's like many doors along the side, and I was like, huh. And for whatever reason, I either knew he was going to be there or I invoked him to be in the room that I chose. So I opened the door and Jeff's there, and he's older. He's about the age when we first met. He isn't as old as he was when he passed, but he's about in his mid-30s. No, it would be late 30s, early 40s, because he was 11 years older than me. So he's on this like love seat, and there's like light streaming in the room from these huge windows, and it's old, and it's like this small velvet like low love seat. So he's sitting there, and he pats next to him with his palm on the love seat. So I come over and I sit down, and I just like kind of lean into him, and he like guides me down to where like my head is in his lap looking up at him, and he's looking down. So I say, I love you. He said, I love you too. And I said, and then we were quiet for a minute. Like, it was quiet, because then I was like, what do you talk to him about? Because, like, you don't, what, gossip? The Eagles won the Super Bowl? Like, does he know? Does he care? Like, these are things he cared about on this side. So it's really hard to figure out, like, what to talk to him about. So I was at a loss. So I just lay there looking at him. And he said, are you happy? And I thought about it, and I started to cry. And I said, well, I miss you. And he said, yeah, but are you happy? So I thought about it before I answered, because I'm not unhappy. You know, I'm a pretty happy person. I'm a pretty happy person by nature. And I don't get bogged down with small shit. You know, I don't let little stuff bother me. Hence, you're never going to get like a bunch of ranting videos. I mean, I rant about some things, but like honestly, I always look at life like each day is like a gift. And you don't know how many gifts you get. Like, nobody gives you like this calendar of, oh, you get this many gifts. So I thought about it when he asked me, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty much happy. Because I am. I'm not like, I miss him horribly, but I don't sit around being miserable, because that's just not who I am. So I say, are you happy? And he said, he just smiled at me. He didn't really answer. He just smiled, like that's a silly question, which is so Jeff. Anyway, so we're lying there, and he took my hand, and I put it up, and it was like in the light, and there was like dust in the air, and it was quiet, and it was sweet, and he was just like rubbing my hand. I said, are you reliving time? And he said, time's not the same. And I said, okay. And I didn't like go further than that, because I don't think I would have understood even if he told me. And then I said, you know, I told him about his kids. I said, you know, Eric has 3 boys, so does Jackie. And he went, and I said, do you check in on him? And he's like, yeah. So we just laid there for a while. He like leaned down, and I leaned up, and he kissed me, and we were just in the sunlight, like just relaxing, just like together. And I said, can you come visit me? And he says, I do. And I said, okay. I said, are we gonna be together? That's what I said, are we gonna be together? And he gave me a look that kind of scared me. And that's another thing. Can I tell you something else? Okay, his eyes aren't the same. Like, yes, they're Jeff's eyes. They're blue. They're like, but they're almost bluer. And the the dilated part of his eyes are well bigger than like mine in the sunlight, and it's a little creepy. It's almost like acidy looking. And you know how they always say, you know what I thought of afterwards? I was like, you know how they always say like the light, like that, like when, you know, you go to the light. And I wonder if that has something to do with like their eyes dilating more, letting in more light, because it is like his eyes were definitely not dilating the way mine did. Do you know what I mean? So anyway, long story short, we just sat there. We didn't really communicate. We were just like in this moment of love. And I really couldn't think of like, what do I say to you now? Works good. Like he doesn't care. He's on another level than that. And and when I ask him questions about that level, he kind of gives me like ambiguous answers. And I would imagine, hold on. I would imagine it's because he can't really answer in the same realm as what we're dealing with. And I don't care. I was just so glad to lay on his lap and have an afternoon with him where I was like so with him. It almost felt like we melded into one like kind of being, and that we were so connected, like more connected than ever I was on earth. And I thought we were really connected. You know, he was like touching my face and I was touching his, and he was as solid as a rock. Sometimes he's not. This time he really was. Like I didn't just feel like his movement. I could feel everything, just like he was, like I'm here. He was very solid. And I think that came with time. Remember, in the beginning, I was only seeing him for a second here and a second there. Like, I didn't have the opportunity or the length of time. This was a long time. So, at some point, there were, like, voices in the hallway. There was also movement in other rooms, and I would look up, and he would just pat me down, like, don't worry about it, you know? So then, so I have no idea where I was, what that place was, nothing. But, so I said, will I see you again soon? And he said, soon. And I said, okay, I love you so much. And I didn't even have to say it, but I said it. And I could just feel it, like a beam of love all over me. It was so fucking good. I can't even explain to you how good it was and how it rejuvenated me in some crazy way. Then he, oh, what was it that happened that I looked? Oh, the sun was starting to go down. That was the other thing. I could see like the light in the room starting to diminish. And at one point, what was it that happened? And now, isn't that crazy that I can't remember how he disappeared? But he just like finally like kind of melted away when I wasn't looking. It was so crazy. And so anyway, so I end up alone in the room. What happened? Like he diverted my attention. But anyway, he diverted my attention, and I like kind of came back to myself alone in the room. I was on the little love seat. So I stood up, and when I looked down at my feet, there was a Nintendo, what are they called? The, you know, the things you press to make things happen on Nintendo. Like an old Nintendo controller on the floor in this crazy old house. And it just had it wasn't connected. There was no TV in there. Just a Nintendo controller, which I thought was batshit crazy. Then, so then I walk out, I open the door to walk out. It is now almost dark. Like you can see it's dusk. And there's crickets, by the way. Isn't that crazy? There was cricket noises. So I open the door and I go out in the hallway. I close the door and I go back down the stairs. Now the stairs are completely black. Like I can't see shit. I come out to the second floor, and as I'm walking by the first door I opened, I just wanted to see. I open the door and he's in there. But he's like young again, and he's still with that other guy. So I just like closed the door, and now I wonder, was he always in both places? Like, is that possible? So then, okay, so all that gets done. I go down to the foyer, and I'm like, for a moment, I kind of lost how to get back home. Like, I thought, oh, I'm going to walk home, or I just thought, let me walk out this house, out of the house. So I opened the front door, and I walk, and there's this like cobblestone pathway, and the grass on either side is just like all overgrown, like it was almost an abandoned house. So I walk down the pathway, and there's a gate to the front, to the lawn or the front of the house. So I open the gate, and I realize that it's like totally dark out. Like, it is now not dusk, it's night. And I look up to the sky, and there's this huge amount of stars, and they are so amazingly beautiful. And I'm just in awe and just like, wow. And that quickly, I'm like, boom, back in my bedroom. And I was like, this is like the best day of my life. So then, even though like I was exhausted, I looked at my clock. This started so early, and now it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's a little after 3, actually. It's like 3:15 or something. So I am in no way tired, and I want to like process what happened. So I laid in bed and just thought about what had just happened. And then I could not, I said, okay, just go to sleep. And I couldn't go to sleep right away. So I watched a video, a silly video, and then I rolled over the other way and said, just make yourself go to sleep, right? So as I'm like making myself go to sleep, all of my dreams from then on, and these were dreams, these weren't travels, all of my dreams were like infused with what had just happened. Like, I was remembering it over and over, and I was like reliving moments of him touching me, and it was the craziest night. I woke up at like a little after 9 with the girls calling my phone, because I'm on vacation this week, but they don't care. And so yeah, and so that was the end of that. It was like, well, it was a really, really beautiful visit, and I'm so grateful that I had it. And it like feels like somebody came back. Do you know what I mean? Really cool. Anyway, I gotta go. They're waiting for me inside because I gotta work, even though today's another vacation day. I gotta get something done at work before I can go get my nails done for the wedding. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.